Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Working in Hockey podcast. I'm your host, Nick Buttendz, and today I'm pleased to be joined by Rob LaLonde, the creator of Buttendz. Rob, how you doing here today?
Nick, thanks a lot for having me on the show, man. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, working in hockey, and I'm really honored that you invited me on the show today. Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm excited to chat to you. Everybody who listens knows that I have a soft spot for the entrepreneurial side of the things, and especially in hockey and sports. So excited to kind of chat more about your journey, your entrepreneurial side as well. But talk to me a little bit about Buttendz here. Where'd the idea come from? When did you guys first get started? Take me all the way back to day one here, Rob.
So Buttendz, where did it all start? It's crazy that it's time flies, like we talked about before the show, where way back when I was I start from the beginning. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, playing ice hockey my whole life. And like every kid, I had the dream of playing, in the NHL, or, at some point I was like, I want to play as far as I can. I want to get to, at one point, my main goal was to be a college hockey player. I remember watching Paul Correa play for University of Maine back when I was a kid and being like, okay, I feel like that's an achievable goal. Obviously, I wanted to win the Stanley Cup and play in the NHL. But that was like a pipe dream. But like I'm like, you know what? I think I can play at the Division I level. That seems like something that's attainable. So I worked really hard as a kid in Buffalo, New York, and developed myself as a player. And um, after high school, I went to a bunch of junior camps, and I did. I eventually ended up playing junior hockey after high school, and I didn't have too many offers to play college coming out of when I was a young kid coming out of Buffalo. So I went and played junior, and had a really fun time, really great experience. Played junior B my first year after high school, and then was drafted first overall in the North American Hockey League. And things started to really open up for me a little bit at that point. I started to find myself as a player. I grew. I had a growth spurt. I really started to develop into a hockey player. And I was fortunate enough. I played 1 year in the North American Hockey League, and I got a scholarship to play at Merrimack College. So I accomplished my goal to play college hockey. And then at that point, it's like, okay, I got to the college hockey level. Now it's like, okay, I'm playing Division I. I'm playing in Hockey East. I'm like playing against players who are going to end up playing in the NHL at some point. And I'm like, I think I can like make that my goal. Like, I feel like I'm going to, at some point after college, I always wanted to stay in hockey. I always wanted to be, I didn't want it to just end after college. So I'm playing college hockey. I'm playing in the best league in the country. And at that point, it was cool for me as a young kid. I was always, a gear nerd as a kid. I always wanted the best stuff, but I didn't always get the best stuff. Like oftentimes as a kid, I was getting hand-me-downs, and maybe my parents weren't, they weren't loaded, so I wasn't, they were supportive and they took care of me, and it was great. But like, I saw some of the other guys using, the high-end sticks and the high-end gear, and it was always something that I wanted. And then so I fast forward, I get to Merrimack, and all of a sudden, we're at the Division I level, and now all of a sudden the stick companies are coming in, and like all the gear companies are coming in at the start of the season, and you're starting to see like you get to choose which equipment you want, and you start to really, for me personally, it was great. I started to like really tinker with what I liked and what, the gear that I wanted, and it was an obsession for me. And at that point, then we're talking like 2002 through 2006 is when I was at Merrimack. The hockey stick specifically started to evolve like right before our eyes. Like I grew up as a kid using wood sticks. They slowly transitioned from wood to, aluminum shafts with wood blades, then carbon fiber, two-piece carbon fiber blades, but you still had to insert the blade. Then all of a sudden, boom, the Easton Synergy comes out, the one-piece stick. I was playing at Merrimack, and, unfortunately at that time, we're playing against Boston College and Boston University and UMaine and all these like Showtime schools. And I'm at Merrimack, and yeah, we're in Hockey East, but we weren't like the guys that were getting like, let's say, the Synergy when it first came out.
Right.
Some of the guys on BC, like our competitors, are using like the silver Sinbom, and it was just something that like I was obsessed with at the time. And so all along this time, I'm seeing the sticks evolve, and everybody is still just using tape on their hockey sticks. And I remember coming into the locker room in Merrimack one day, and I'm looking at my sticks, and I had used them a few days in a row, and the tape on the sticks, as you know, you use it for a little bit for your grip, and it absorbs some moisture, and it like starts to change color, and it gets slimy and sticky. And like I was always tinkering, trying to get the best feel. And I remember going out practicing my one timer, before practice one day, and my hands slipped in my. I go to take a one timer, and my stick spins, and I couldn't get a good grip on the top hand of my stick. And I basically like had a light bulb moment in college at that moment where I was like, there's just nothing like I didn't like using tape for the grip of my hockey stick. And I was like, wow, this is like a really interesting thing that nobody's really doing that I knew of at the time. Nobody was really making grips for hockey sticks that I thought were good. So I was like, whoa, like maybe this is something that I could do as a business after I'm done playing or even while I'm playing to stay in hockey and to like build something that I thought I would like. And at this point, I was confident in myself as like I was pickier than most of my teammates, and I was like, if I could build something that I loved, I think I could get other players on board with it as well. So I had this like vision in my head of like, okay, there's nothing really that exists. I think I could do it, and if I could build it, now I could take it out there, and I think other players would like it as well. So that was kind of like the genesis of the idea for the company. And then I was, at a school where a lot of my friends, a lot of my teammates were in business and they were taking business classes. And so I was watching, what they were doing and what they were studying and how that they were like talking about forming a business. And I was like, okay, this is actually for me, I thought a great idea. And I didn't get a lot of support as well, like from my friends, like even my closest friends at the time were like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know about that idea. Some of my teammates even. But for me, I was like, no, this is a great idea. I was like convinced that like if we built something cool that was good that I liked, I think other players would like it as well. And if that's the case, I mean, like my goal at that point was like, okay, I could build something cool and then I could get superstars to use it. And if I could get a superstar to use it, the sky's the limit, because like if you look at, I was obsessed with like what the players at the NHL were using and how they looked on the ice, their image as a player. So if you could like put a grip on the stick and have them use it in the game, you're a part of that image as a company. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's like really powerful tool for marketing and a really powerful thing, even though it's not like a massive idea. Everyone's like, oh, it's just a hockey grip. Like it's kind of a small, you're thinking too small. And I was like, well, if a player is using your product at the NHL level and someone takes a picture of them and they create a poster and they put it in a hockey shop, your product is going to be on the poster. And so I was like, I think that's enough right there for like a business idea.
Yep.
So once I had that idea, I basically became obsessed. And I thought the name for Buttendz for me was like, I just thought as a hockey player, if you say the word Buttendz, you'll immediately know kind of what we're doing here, right?
Absolutely.
Like as a hockey player, you say Buttendz, you immediately think, I'm sure Buttendz of the hockey stick. And then you see the product and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Uh, I was obsessed. I haven't stopped thinking about it ever since. Like every single day, at least once an hour, I think about some kind of something related to Buttendz hockey grip. So that was the beginning, and yeah, here we are now. It's many years later, and we're doing the podcast. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear, and I love a lot of things that you touched on there, from the cost and just the overall innovation. I think hockey and sports in general, honestly, there isn't a lot of innovation in some areas because, well, this is just the way we've always done things. The tools have always been made this way. The equipment's always been made this way. So I think super interesting to hear how it kind of evolved for you there. And you touched on kind of the marketing of it as well there, Rob. Obviously, social media is a bigger thing today than it was when you first started out with Buttendz there. What was the initial kind of growth, adoption, and adoption curve of the product there once you had the samples made? You had some guys and some buddies using it. What was that adoption curve like for the product?
yeah, that's a great question, and it's very a poignant question to ask, especially because we didn't predict social media the way it would be now then, right? So we my partner Kevin and I. So I started the company with my best friend from growing up, who's the smartest guy that I knew, and really, quite frankly, one of the only people who was like, yeah, this is a good idea. We're both golfers, and we're both kind of obsessed with equipment in a way, and we took basically the technology from the golf industry, where you have grips on all of your clubs, and we brought that technology to the hockey market. And so basically what we wanted to do at first was, this is 2013 we formed the company. This is after I stopped playing. I retired from playing competitively in 2010. And a couple years later, I was, like I mentioned to you before, I was living in New York, and I was still trying to figure out like how to start a company. I had no idea. And my best friend from growing up, Kevin, who is also a really smart dude, was like, why don't we just build something and like see if you like it, and if you like it, then we can like start a company and see where it goes. So basically, we built our first prototype product together, and it was basically a golf grip for hockey sticks that
Yeah.
I loved originally. I was like, oh man, this is great. Like once we had it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. So we basically put in a minimum order of the product with our manufacturer, and we got a bunch of grips. So we got got like 1,000 units together, and we were like, okay, so now basically we have to take it into the hockey market and see if people actually like it. And looking back, this was like some of the most fun times for me. Was like not knowing where it was going to go, but being really excited, and nobody knew anything about us. Like we had no, like you said, no social media, nobody knew anything. But we found we're like, we need to find hockey players somewhere. So basically what we did was like find hockey tournaments and go up to the tournament. So at this point we were living in Buffalo, New York, where we started the company.
Yep.
And I would literally we'd fill up my trunk of the car with a bunch of grips and like go to a youth hockey tournament and buy a table, buy like a space in the lobby and just sit there and basically sell the grips one at a time to players that walk by. So like I would literally have the grips on my stick and just show every single player that walked by. And like immediately the response was unbelievable from the hockey community, where like every single kid that walked by like would stop and like look at it, and like you could just see the look on their face when they saw it. And I can remember that to this day, being like, okay, we have something here, because like every player would see it and they'd look at their sticks with like old tape on them, and they'd see this grip, and like right away we were like selling out. So we would take the product, go to a tournament, bring like 100 grips, and be sold out by Sunday. And so we knew we had something early where it was like, okay, hockey players actually really like this. And like you mentioned, this is like before social media was really like popping. And I remember at first, it was like Instagram had just came out, and so we started an Instagram account, and we started taking photos with like the customers and like posting them
Yep.
online, and you could feel the excitement and you could feel the energy like from the very beginning, where people from other parts of the world now were seeing what we were doing, and they were like, oh, I want to try that product. So we had a website, and we immediately started to sell the product, and like it just started to organically grow. And then so as social media sort of matured, we just kept trying to do things that were fun and like put content online and try to get people to find out about us through that method. So that was literally like the growth strategy, which we still to this day do. Obviously, social media is a much bigger part of the game now. So like it's like we just this year we were in Chicago doing a youth tournament, and just meeting people for the first time and showing them the product for the first time, and then doing content around that to just push it out into the world to say, here's what we're doing. And that's basically how we've grown our business for the last like 12 years.
No, that's awesome. And like I say, I could talk about this stuff all day, and I love the golf club reference there as well. I have a good buddy who swears by the Buttendz products, and I vividly remember him saying to us once, he's like, "Well, would you retape your golf clubs after every single round? That's what you're doing with your hockey stick right now,
That's
and that's
that's
the
literally
perfect
my
analogy."
pitch. That's literally my pitch to like, if I like see a dad, like a lot of
Yeah.
times dads will come up with their kid, and then you got to figure out like, the kid wants it, but the dad's like, a little unsure, and he's
Yep.
wearing like a Titleist hat. You know what I mean? If he's got like a Titleist hat, I
Yep.
immediately go like, like you play golf, like you wouldn't tape your driver. You could, but you wouldn't do it. You want the best grip you can get,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
immediately the golfer, the dad's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
No, that's it's a great comparison, and like I say, it stuck with me that I can't imagine after 4 hours, 18 holes, having to sit down and retape my driver and all my irons for the next round. So that's a great analogy there. But I guess what point in time, Rob, did you guys start taking on more retail partners or initiatives there? Like you said, the growth was great with you and the team going out to events and tournaments and stuff. But to take it to that next sort of level, what was that turning point, or when did that happen?
So basically, the going to market strategy was right from the very beginning. Like we built a website where we were able to sell like
Yep.
e-commerce and do it online, and have our own website where we could sell directly to customers. And again, that has matured a lot since then too.
Sure.
Even in 2013, where it was kind of a new thing, if you will. I mean, very very possible. So like we had our website online, but then of course like we wanted to be in the hockey shops. So right away, like I remember doing our first tournament, we went to the MasterCard Center up in Toronto. That was like one of our first events, where we had the grips, and like we didn't even have packaging at this point. Like we had them in like little plastic bags with like inserts that we made, which we had like spelling errors on the insert. You know what I mean? It's like our first show, and we crushed, right? So we're in the lobby of the MasterCard Center, and Gino, the pro shop manager, is in the pro shop at the MasterCard Center, and he sees us out there, selling out to all these kids of this product. So before we left for the weekend, of course we go in there and be like, hey, Gino, I got this product. Nice to meet you. I'm Rob from Buttendz. I think you might do well in your store. And he's like, yeah, I saw you all weekend. Kids are coming in here buying the product, using it. We want to try it out. Let's bring it in. So basically, it was like, oh, okay. So there you go. We opened up our first retail partner, and now all of a sudden, the Mastercard Center is selling Buttendz, and like I'm like, okay, so now we're able to basically sell. That's like obviously having your product in the pro shop was something that we really wanted, and right away. So I saw it originally where how it was so successful for me. Like when I would take the any rink I would go to for a tournament, we were having a lot of success with sales. And then I would go to visit the pro shops while I was there. It'd be like, hey guys, we just sold 100 grips in 3 days in the lobby. You want to try it out in the store? And every once in a while you get pushback, but for the most part, a lot of the stores are really like really looking for these kind of products at the time. Having something that's new and exciting, at the cash register, that's a good product, and they can see the success that we're having, like in their lobby, like in their backyard. A lot of stores were really excited to bring us on early, and it was a lot of the mom and pops, you know what I mean? It was a lot of the small stores that could make easy decisions. Like, yep, bring them in, give me 20 grips, we'll see how they do. And then, like Gino at the Mastercard Center, shout out to my man Gino, but like, he'd call me up a couple weeks later, be like, I sold out of the grips, we need more, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And so part of my strategy was to not only do the shows, not only do the events with the players, but then also get in the car and take the show on the road and go do sales pitches. And you and I talked before the show, like after I was done playing, I moved to New York. I got a job opportunity. At this point, I was like obsessed with Buttendz, but I had no business experience. And I got a job opportunity in New York selling copy machines. Somebody offered me a job, and I was like, I don't know. And then I took the job, and because I needed business experience, as a hockey player and like playing hockey after college, I didn't really have any real world sales or business experience. So I was selling copy machines in New York for 2 years at the same time, like designing and building Buttendz on the side. And, that experience gave me a ton of, it was a great learning experience for when we did have our product. And now it's like, okay, we want to make retail partners part of our business strategy. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, not only am I going to do like the weekend shows at the tournaments, but then during the week, I'm going to call on stores and I'm going to be like, pitch the product to, any hockey shop in the world, right, as an opportunity for us. So, that was something that really took off for us and really helped us out early on. Was like we did this thing called, we had starter packs. So basically, we build out like boxes with 20 grips with our brand on it, and then put them in a little box. It was like a case, and then I would fill up the car with all these starter packs and like make a list of stores from like Buffalo to Toronto to Montreal, all over New York, anywhere, Boston, you name it. And so I would just get in the car and just drive to all the stores and literally just walk in, cold call, and with my hockey sticks, and find out who the owner was and like do a sales call and just be like, I got this new product, here it is. We're having lots of success at the these youth tournaments. Like the hockey players really like this product, and it's like taking off. You guys should take a chance on it and see if it works in your shop. And we got a ton of success with that. These guys are, for the most part, most of the stores were like, yeah, this is a cool idea, let's check it out, let's see. It's like really no, almost a no-brainer. So we were like, it was basically we like seeding the product at these stores at 20 groups at a time. It's like very low risk for the store owners to do that. So that was it, man. Drive around and seed the product, and then all of a sudden our phone starts ringing with store owners being like, "Hey, we sold through the grips. Let's get another order. Let's order more. Can the price come down and all that?" And that's basically how we got the retail market going. Was just one at a time, seeding it, and then obviously working to get into the bigger locations. Was It took a little bit more time and a little bit more finesse, but that's kind of how the company got started from the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And one thing that we've touched on a little bit there in a couple different answers is the price, the cost. Hockey's a very expensive sport. You and I both know that. There's recurring costs. It's very steep, even just to get out on the ice these days. You're looking at a couple $100 no matter where you are. The product's very reasonably priced. I mean, $27, I think, for the longevity and the multi-use that you get out of it. Very, very impressive from my outside unbiased opinion here, that's a very fair price. How much is the price, the cost, kind of part of the strategy there, keeping that low while everything else in the world seems to be going up and up and up these days?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's all part of the business. Like we didn't want to start the business and try to gouge the customer, and like obviously we want to run a successful company and a successful business. But what's really exciting for me is to be able to provide a product that not only gives you good value, but like I always tell people, like you're going to spend a lot of money if you use tape on your sticks, right? Because tape's not cheap either. And if you're going to, you can leave the tape on there for months, and then you know how it's going to look. Every hockey player knows what a stick looks like after you've used it for even 3 or 4 sessions, let alone 3 or 4 weeks or months. It looks terrible. And not only that, but it also like destroys the palms of your gloves. This was something that, like, I guess go back to like my days at Merrimack, where come December, we didn't have at this stage of the of '02 through '06. I might have only had one pair of gloves at Merrimack to start the year. So come December, I'm using tape on my sticks. I've got holes in the palm of my glove. Now I got to get my gloves repalmed. Now I got to get used to a new set of gloves in mid-season. Well, our product actually uh, is a much gentler on the gloves. So like right away, you're going to be saving time, saving money, and we didn't actually design it this way. It was like kind of something that was happenstance. But the grips are also reusable. So you can actually remove a Buttendz grip and put it on a different stick. And that has been a huge selling point for us. The number one objection, or the number one question I get from parents who are making buying decisions, like at the point of purchase, like if I'm doing a show, is like, well, once I put it on there, it's stuck on there, right? Like, what if I break my stick? And immediately I know right away, it's like, oh no, grips are reusable. You can take them from one stick and move them to another stick. Some kids, I've seen some players getting, multiple seasons out of the same grip. And so that's like, a way of keeping costs down, and also just, it's also a good feel, and good consistency. And so we're really happy and excited that we're able to provide a product that not only, is cool and feels good and people like, but it saves you a little bit of money in the long run. We're not like breaking the bank here. So it's a nice feeling.
Absolutely, and you mentioned been at it for well over a decade now, which is impressive in and of itself. But what's keeping the operation running today? How many people are on the team? I know we got Josh, great guy working on the socials, but how many hands are on deck to keep Buttendz trending forwards here?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been so fortunate. Obviously, you mentioned Josh. He's been working for me for a few years now, and he's been amazing. And then it's myself and my business partner Kevin, who I mentioned earlier. So we're a lean company. Basically, we have two owners. We share the company, and Josh works for us full time, and he's been doing an amazing job for us. Like you mentioned, he's the one who introduced us. So we have a really small business, and we're able to run everything basically just with the two of us, myself and my business partner Kevin. And then of course, like we have like different, multiple different outsourced partners that we use. So we have a fulfillment center in Buffalo, New York, and a warehouse that we use. And we have a great team there that does all of our fulfillment and shipping and handling. And then we have some manufacturing partners around the globe. And yeah, so basically the company is really lean, and we've been very fortunate with that way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, and again, shout out to Josh for setting this one up here. But I guess looking forward, Rob, what's next for yourself for the business? I know you're still getting out there and playing on the ice. I know you guys are getting out to all the different tournaments and events. But what's next for Buttendz?
Yeah, so you mentioned I just feel very fortunate, and like it's working in hockey, being able to have a life that a lot of players, their career ends. Like myself, I remember thinking like, what am I going to do after hockey? I never wanted my hockey life or my hockey journey to end. So I wake up every day like with gratitude that I'm able to do something that I love in the sport that I love, that gave me everything. Like hockey was my whole life, and to be able to have a business in hockey and provide value to the younger generation that's coming up gives me a lot of fulfillment every single day. And I'm also very excited for the opportunities that have been afforded to us because of Buttendz and because of just everything that we have here. And you mentioned last year I had an opportunity. For me, my job is to like try to get as many people to know about us as possible. I'm trying to promote the business and get people to try the product. And I'm running a company, so I want my company to be successful. So part of that is to basically do the marketing, and I try to think of creative ways to uh, promote my business while also giving back to the community and helping younger generation, like whether it's doing camps or doing coaching. Or that last year I had the opportunity to go over and suit them up, lace them up again over in Spain. So I played a season in an IIHF league over in Spain, which was crazy. And then we have some new products coming out. So we're building here at Buttendz to try to come up with different styles, different feels. And then that opens up a lot of doors to other aspects to try to promote the new products. And yeah, I'm just really excited and really fortunate to have this opportunity to be a part of the hockey community and to, work in hockey essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny because so many LinkedIn or online gurus these days are all about kind of creator-led, creator-founded, founder marketing, all these sort of approaches. And you've been doing that for over a decade, right? That's what's kind of had the business successful, like you said, is, being the face of it. People know who they're getting into business with. The hockey world's small, a lot of crossover. You see the same people and families at these different tournaments. That importance of kind of keeping up those relationships and appearances and everything is especially important in sports and hockey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, the hockey community is a small, really small group, and you're one phone call away from everybody. And it seems like everybody's played with somebody, or I see a lot of my former teammates are on TV now talking about hockey or have podcasts, or
Yeah.
and it's really cool to be a part of it still. And hockey's a beautiful game that literally gave me everything. It gave me goals as a kid to shoot for. It gave me that really was it, right? Like it gave me aspirations to want to achieve something, because like I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was young, but hockey was like I want to play hockey, and it was a team environment where I was learning a lot, and then all of a sudden it opened up opportunities to play junior and get out of my city that I grew up in and go chase a dream. And then from there, like to be able to play college hockey and basically, get a college hockey scholarship and go to school and get an education. And then from there, I was like, okay, what next? And then to play pro hockey at the pro level for a few years. And then I never would have dreamed that, I never would have dreamed it would have been this amazing to have, Buttendz and to have a company and to be able to do what I'm doing now with hockey. It's like every day is an adventure. So I'm very grateful just to be able to stay involved and hopefully give back to the younger generation and give them something to shoot for and give people a reason to want to join the game and be a part of the sport and then to achieve great things in life. So for me, it's a very fulfilling experience, and I'm grateful to the game and to the people that are involved in the game to be a part of it. Because if it wasn't for the hockey community supporting us, like I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So I'm very fortunate, and I'm looking forward to what's next.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I couldn't agree more. Put you on the spot here, Rob. Was there obviously tons of pro players over the years have used butt ends and are still using butt ends there? Was there a guy or a player that you saw using the product and you was a little bit pinch me, like, wow, so and so is using the product?
I mean, yeah, to this day, it's crazy. Like I still see guys using it in the NHL, and it's like super fun. I'm like a big kid watching it. Like I feel like I'm part of the game in a way. Like when I get to go see an NHL player, but I feel that way too about going to the Pee Wee games and seeing young play. Anybody like even from the very beginning, just seeing anybody using your product on the ice for me is very exciting. Like whether it's a men's league game or a Pee Wee game or going to see a superstar in the NHL. But specifically, like, there's a couple people that I had to mention. Like, really early on, I was friends with Brandon Prust. He was playing for Montreal Canadiens, and we had just got the product, and I'm like, I got to figure out like who I can reach out to my network to see like to try this. And so I called Prusty up on the phone, and I'm like, hey man, I got this product. I'm like, I'd love you to check it out. And he's like, yeah, yeah, for sure, man. He's like, I'd love to try it. And so I saw the schedule, like they were playing in Philadelphia. So I like took a train. I think I took a train to Philly. It was the night before the game. And Prusty's like, yeah, come meet me in the hotel. So like I met up with him in the hotel, and I had like a backpack of grips. I showed him the product, and he's like, oh, this is sick, man. I'll use it in the game tomorrow. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like this. I was like, I'm like I'm like starstruck at this point. Like I'm a kid, like I feel like a kid hanging out with the NHL player, and he's going to use the product. So we go to the game, the Flyers Canadians game, and I remember being in the stands, like, and this is 2013. This is like our first year before we even had inventory of stuff. And I remember for that first game, Prusty comes out for warmups, and I'm in the crowd, and he like looks up in the crowd and like puts the grip up and shows me the grip on the stick, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is like a dream come true. Like 2013, like I watching an NHL player use the product, and then following his career, like watching him play for Montreal Canadiens, it became like just a watch every
Yeah.
game, and like we have one guy, but it was like Prusty, who's the man, you know what I mean? And it was so fun to watch that. But then through the years now, it's been so fun. Guys like, for example, got to give a shout out to my boy Akil Thomas. I'm wearing his hat right now from Zale. Like, I met him at a youth tournament. I think it was like King of the Ring or tournament up in Toronto when he was a Bantam, and he started using Buttendz. And I remember a lot of the kids were like, from then on, like, they'd come up and they'd be like, oh yeah, Buttendz, like Akil Thomas uses these. And I was like, Akil Thomas, like I gotta, I gotta know more about Akil, right? And
Yeah.
so he's been using Buttendz since he was at Bantam, and now he's playing for the LA Kings. And to get to watch him, and like I got his rookie card, you know what I mean? Like just follow guys like him, and to form relationships with guys like that through the years has been amazing. Guys like Jeff Petrie, who just he probably used Buttendz longer than any player. To watch him and when he was on Montreal, and just to have the experience of seeing guys at the highest level use your stuff is crazy, And then like, now to have guys like Max Domi, Tim Stutzla from Ottawa, and to be able to watch these players and like it's just fun to see them like using your grips and using your product at that level. So yeah, it's super cool. And then again, like to be able to go to like the Pee Wee tournament and like you see random kids who don't even know they don't know who I am, but they see them using your I'll see kids walking in the rink and I'll they'll have a Buttendz grip on their stick and I'll be like, hey, nice grip, man. And they look at me like, yeah, okay, thanks, man, whatever, like who are you or whatever. But like it's just for me it's really fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that feeling never gets old. That's awesome to hear. And the last one that I wanted to ask you, I touched on before, all the work that I did with Hockey Collective before. We had a series on TikTok, especially called Random Rink Reviews, where I would go around to basically every different arena and rink that we could find, and people would drop comments and suggest where to go. You've been to a ton of rinks, marketing the product, kind of getting out there the grassroots level. What's your favorite youth hockey or minor hockey rink that you've ever been to, Rob?
Whoa, favorite minor. I mean, I got to give a shout out to my hometown rink, Holiday Twin Rinks. I grew
Yeah.
up there. Northtown Center in Buffalo. I used to work. My business partner, and I used to basically rake the softball fields for a job one summer. So shout out to Northtown Center, Pepsi Center in Buffalo. Um, Gosh, that does put me on the spot. Greatest. I mean, obviously going up to the Pee Wee tournament, I got to do our first year. I think it was 2015. We did the final year. I played in it as a kid at the Pepsi Colisée in Quebec City,
Yep.
and then our first trip up there with Buttendz, we set up basically a pop up shop at the Pee Wee tournament at the last year of the Pepsi Colisée. And that was an amazing experience being underneath and like basically having access to all the teams there. So that was really fun. And yeah, and I mean honestly, like the last couple of years have been so fun for me that I've been traveling a lot and doing a lot of different hockey experiences in other parts of the world. And I'm recently last year I went down to Peru and I got to skate with the team in Lima. So there's a couple ice rinks in Lima, Peru. Shout out to the Peru Alpacas if they see this. And we actually got to lace them up for Team Peru down in Ushuaia at the Fin del Mundo in Ushuaia, Argentina. There's this amazing outdoor rink. You wouldn't even believe it. And the tournament, I'm actually playing it again this summer. It runs from end of July and early August. And it's this outdoor rink in Ushuaia at the tip of the globe, essentially. And it's unbelievable. And they have like a really exciting hockey community down there. So shout out to those guys. And yeah, those are a couple off the top of my head that I think of. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. The last one that we always ask here, Rob, kind of in terms of career advice or any insider advice that we can give the next generation or college students, whatever it may be, for somebody looking to start a business in hockey, in sports, what sort of career advice would you have for them?
I think the biggest thing is to try to dream big and don't let anybody discourage you from your dreams. Like I know that's maybe a cliche, but a lot of people were telling me like, oh, that's not a very good idea. And like, if I listened to other people tell me like that Buttendz wasn't a good idea and I didn't start the company, because I would say like 95% of people were like, yeah, that's not a very good idea. Like that's not going anywhere. And if I had listened to them, I never would have built anything and I never would have accomplished anything. So if you're a young person out there, like don't be afraid to, dream big, dream weird, think of something off the wall that, and don't be afraid to chase your dreams and go for it because, it's worth it on the backside. Whatever it is that you're thinking of, whether it's, whatever it is, don't let anybody discourage you from chasing after what it is that you are thinking about and what you're dreaming about.
Yeah, that's very well said. And yes, we are all glad that you listened to that 5% of people and started Buttendz. Like I say, one of my favorite products to use here. So, Rob, this has been awesome. Can't thank you enough for hopping on here and taking the time. Tell the people where they can find you online.
Yeah, Nick, thanks a lot again for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and I really appreciate it. We put out an APB on your channel, and we actually found we got some great people reaching out to us that wanted to do some stuff for us. And we're actually working with my shout out to Luke, who's been doing some work with us behind the scenes, who
Yeah.
we found through your channel. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Yeah, check us out, buttendz.com. uh Anything online at Buttendz online is where you can find us, and I'm still very much hands-on with the company. So basically, if you want to get in touch with me, all you got to do is reach out to Buttendz, and you can find me very easily there. And if I ever can help anything in any way, whether it's business, hockey, whatever, I'm available. And it's a passion of mine to be able to be, help the younger generation coming up. And I'm really excited to be able to do that moving forward. So appreciate hearing from you guys, and thanks for the opportunity from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Thanks again, Rob. And guys, we'll see you next week here on the Working in Hockey podcast.
Thanks, Nick.